Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today is October 9th, 2023. We're here on a Monday in the Commissioners' Conference Room for a work session with our Community Planning, Infrastructure and Resources Department. I first like to take a moment to acknowledge that today is Indigenous Peoples Day, and just want to take a moment to acknowledge that. And we acknowledge the land that a lot of our county buildings are in, except for ancestral lands of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, and other tribal nations, and just want to take a moment to celebrate that and acknowledge that, and to ask everyone to celebrate the rich culture and diversity of Indigenous peoples today. So with that, I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shackby Nally, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I am joined here today with my colleagues, Larimer County Commissioner John Kafalis and Larimer County Commissioner Kristen Stevens. Also joining us today for our work session is our County Manager, Lorenda Volker, our Assistant County Manager over here keeping an eye on us, Lori Cadgers. I always have to tease you because I feel like we're surrounded. Lori Cadgers, our Assistant County Manager, and we have a lot of people in the room because we have a lot of full agendas, but right now I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Community Planning, Infrastructure and Resources Director, Leslie Ellis. Sorry, it is Monday, and I feel like I lived a whole week just in the first half of this morning. So thank you very much.
So Leslie Ellis, good afternoon, everybody. And I will move us along because we do have a full agenda. Our first item is an update on the Second Amendment of the Short-Term Rental Enforcement Ordinance. Amy White will cover that topic. And then we have two topics from Department of Natural Resources after that. So I'll hand it off to Amy and we'll get going.
All right.
Good afternoon, Amy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Amy White, Code Compliance Supervisor. As you know, we are amending the short-term rental enforcement ordinance again based on some legislation that passed earlier this year, which allows us to regulate the platforms. Currently, the short-term rental ordinance requires the owner to put their approval number in the banner heading, we were calling it, but this actually allows us to contact the platforms directly, and then they need to take it down within 7 days. They have provided the language, both VRBO and Airbnb provided the same language. County Attorney Frank Haug reviewed that language, and we've included that in the second amended. As you can see, the change doesn't take effect until page 4 and page 5. And basically it says, shall require that each owner or owner's agent using the vacation rental service include a license number in any listing for a short-term rental on the vacation rental service. And so we had been asking them to put it in the banner heading. They're actually going to provide a space where that goes. And there's going to be a little bit of lag time between, so once this passes, they'll reach out to everybody who advertises with them and say, hey, you need to put in your number. And if the owner doesn't put in a number, then they will delist them voluntarily, and then that will allow us to regulate those a little bit easier. Does anybody have any questions?
Colleagues, do you have any questions, Commissioner Kafalis?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Amy. Could you remind us again the process by which this ordinance would be approved? There's the first reading. When will that occur? And then it's got to be posted. Could you talk to us about that, please?
Frank may need to.
Effect, actually.
Yep. Frank may need to help me. It's been a minute since we've done this. Basically, we'll read it. I do not have a date yet for the time that I will read it. Then it gets published for 30 days. Then I come back and just read the title itself. Then it gets published for another 10 days, and then it becomes effective.
Thank you, Amy.
I may have.
Frank Haug from the County Attorney's Office. That's right. The only comment I guess I'd add is you do have the ability, if you want to change something, you can change it. I don't know that you would want to, but if you did, we just have to publish whatever change you make to it.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, so they will delist if that blank isn't filled in,
Correct.
because that's how automatically.
Correct.
And they'll do that by, I mean, they know by zip code? How do they know what's in, what's in Larimer County and what's not? Or-
So they must have some way where the owners actually can fill in whatever information in the back route. I just scheduled a meeting with Airbnb for next Wednesday to see what that partnership looks like and what that process will be. So evidently, if that is blank, then they can run behind the scenes and see that it's blank. Or we can also check to make sure it's the proper number, that people aren't just putting in some willy-nilly license number.
Now, would you, if you did it that way, would you or your staff have to do that kind of manual type check?
And so we've also recently switched our third-party vendor, which actually scans all the different services. And hopefully with this new vendor that we're going with, they can provide reports where it's going to be easier for us to determine those.
That's good.
Because right now, it's really difficult for us to even know until we get a complaint.
Right, so that's time consuming for your staff
Yeah.
if you had to pour over,
Yeah.
like listings to try
Yep.
to find ones.
So
that are-
hopefully, once we get them the data that we have, they will be able to then help us run that report so we know who is operating illegally.
And which, can you remind me which platforms is Airbnb, VRBO, or are there others? I don't know.
HomeAway, they crawl like 38 different. There was one that we got a complaint on. It was doctor to doctor, some platform out there where they're just renting to doctors. And they just happened, yeah. And so I sent that to our current platform and I said, hey, have you heard of this one? And they had not. So then they started monitoring that platform as well.
So something like that, is there like, I mean, sorry, I don't want to just get off too far, but is there like could a person do a home exchange then? Or technically, or would that be considered like I think I mean, when I think of doctor to doctor, I think there's a lot of professors that go away for sabbatical and they might,
Yeah.
switch out or something like that. Would that not be, I guess if it was longer term, it wouldn't
Yeah.
fall under those auspices.
There was actually money changing hands. And they
Okay.
had done substantial as-built work, so
Oh, interesting.
we jumped on
Okay.
it pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for all your work, I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure we weren't, I like that we're going to be able to monitor them better, and I like also that it's not going to create more work, hopefully not too much more work for your department. Okay, thank you.
So I agree with that as well. Certainly work smarter, not harder, because you guys already work very, very hard. I want to just, maybe this is what Commissioner Capalas asked, but when you talk about responding to with the complaint, Section 8, subsection B and C, responding within an hour in the affirmative, is that, so are they making the complaint through the line, through our service, or are they calling, how are we doing that? Are they looking up and then how are we knowing that there's a violation and that they had to respond?
So they're either using the hotline through the third-party vendor, or they can still file a complaint via our webpage. And that's how we would know that we need to take a look at something. Now, responding, there's kind of two different ways to look at that. It may be a simple phone call, right? So it may not require an actual physical presence on the property. So there's a couple different ways. We got one the other day with a trash complaint that we were able to deal with via phone. So it doesn't always have to be a physical visit to the property.
They have to, the property manager has to live within an hour, but they have to respond within an hour in the affirmative. Okay,
Correct.
that's helpful. Thank
Yep.
you very much.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate that. Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, next one.
Zach Wiebe is headed up here to get settled to talk about the notice of grant requirements for the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies and Dalen. So take it away.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I think this update should be fairly brief. I know there's a full agenda, but we wanted to share an update in preparation for some documents that we'll be sending your way in consent, which is a partnership between ourselves and the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. which has applied for and received funding through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Neotropical Bird Conservation Act funding, which is it's a project that they've had ongoing for about 20 years, where they monitor grassland birds in two places in Mexico and then the Front Range of Colorado. And our and Fort Collins open spaces have proven to be great places to do that. And it's a great partnership because we can use money that we've expended on acquisitions to match that funding. And so the work that we're doing anyway as part of our mission also leverages additional data that we can collect that the Bird Conservancy funds for this program. So we wanted to share this update in preparation for that signature, but also because you'll see on consent review, the documents are called Notice of Grant Requirements. Grant requirements, meaning that the county acknowledges that this funding source comes with certain requirements of these properties, and they are that they stay conserved in perpetuity, which they already are because we have conservation easements on them, and that there's some approval requirements from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service should we ever divest of those properties, which of course is also a very, very remote possibility. And so with that, I'll just say too that there's 4 notices that will be coming your way on 2 different properties.
Yeah, I read those in our consent packet already, yeah. So I saw there was 4 of them, but there are only 2 properties, is what you're saying?
Correct, and
Okay.
that's because of the structure of the grant and how they wanted to make their request. So it's technically 4 different grant requests that are spread across 2 properties, both in the foothills. And we really like it because we get really great data on properties we've just recently conserved that will then help inform our management efforts, weed control, public access planning, all those sorts of things.
Questions? Commissioner Kafalas?
Thank you. Could you, Zach, mostly for the public, give an example of what kind of work the Bird Conservancy will do based on these funds? Are we looking at bird counts, habitat review? Could you speak to
Yeah,
that?
certainly. So the way they go about this monitoring is to collect data across a grid of points across each of these properties. And they do this, of course, on these properties, but also previous open spaces and city properties. And then they replicate the same techniques in Mexico. And they do species counts and density counts as best they can. It's mostly through audio observations, listening for bird identification. They do also do a vegetation assessment as part of this observation, and then they can look at trends over time for bird populations and distribution.
What kinds of species are we talking about? Songbirds, a variety of things?
Focused on grassland species, but that captures songbirds, raptors. The list is long, and I couldn't name all of the birds, but yeah, everything that they hear in that particular ecosystem.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any questions?
Oh, that's one question. Yeah, this sounds great and happy to support on consent. You said that they look at vegetation assessment. Do they kind of give us feedback on, yeah, so how we could maybe improve habitats so that we could do our work better?
Exactly,
Okay.
and where more sensitive habitats may be, if there's rare species, that's something we wanna know. So absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's a great partnership then. Thank you.
Certainly.
This is indirectly related, but do other organizations partner with us to look at other types of species such as pollinators or monarch butterflies? Is there any effort to determine the state of habitat for monarchs?
Sure. We typically partner with the Colorado Natural Heritage Program out of CSU to conduct surveys on pollinators. It's usually, most recently been specific to our properties, but there are various efforts to look at those species on a broader range.
Thank you. I had a quick question, and maybe I was just scanning through the agreements. We've already had a kind of a partnership on a different. They were doing some work with us up north, right around for a bird count, or is this continuation of this? Is a different area, different grant? What is? I mean, I've always been supportive of this because it is so important because we've seen decreases with our songbird populations in general over the last few years. So, that was kind of up more north. Is this the same continued, or is this two new areas? Just curious. I'm the details right now are. With all the information I've gone through today, I can't pull it up.
Sure. Understood. And yes, it's part of a larger effort. We have conducted similar surveys at Red Mountain, and most recently the approximately 1,000-acre addition immediately adjacent to Red Mountain to the west, which actually is also part of this program, and you'll see a similar document in the future. So absolutely, and that goes across Soapstone, the city's natural area, has a lot of data, and unfortunately, you're right, a lot of these species are in decline. But if we continue to monitor it, we can try to find ways to help curb that. It's a regional and national challenge, but one that we can try to learn more about locally.
Thank you, Zach. I'm super excited about this partnership and obviously very critical partnership. So thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk about permitting, the current permit system and the future permit system for Department of Natural Resources and Dalen.
And I think Sarah's going to have,
I think
Yeah.
I'll just have the conversation.
okay.
Yeah.
So she will not have a slide to put up. So this topic today is really as an information exchange and really to seek concurrence if you're in agreement with how we move forward. But, so as you may recall, we began as DNR kind of updating and modernizing our permitting system and going through a process to do that. Well, one of the first steps is really to do a business review and sort of understand how our business operations work and identify those areas that we should discontinue because of return on investment or difficulty in managing the program. We've worked with our business analysts within the county to do that. Well, the process Sarah's going to go through today with Corey's help is a recommendation and a step in the direction of discontinuing outside permit sales. So permit sales through vendors like Jack's and REI and mom and pop shops because of the return on investment being very low. We sell very few permits through those vendors, and the cost for us to maintain that in place is pretty high. It all predates online sales, and so this also is a little bit of a leftover from days gone by. So Sarah will go through the numbers as to why it makes sense for us to discontinue selling permits through outside vendors. And then Corey will talk a little bit about how we're going to market this change to make sure those who do buy permits from outside vendors know where to go to buy them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah and Corey.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you. I'm Sarah Watson, Senior Accountant with the Department of Natural Resources. I've been with the county for 6 years now and have seen a lot of changes in the permit processes. And we always evaluate based on, what benefits our customers, but also staff efficiency and accuracy. The manual process that we have to still go through for a lot of our permits, we're trying to correct with getting an online system, a more online system, more automated system to help our visitors and staff. But the process to which we use outside vendor help is extremely manual. It takes a lot of staff time to go deliver these permits, hand over them, and then every month do a reconciliation on paper of permits issued, sold, revenue less their commission. It's all very manual, so it takes a lot of staff time, especially when there's issues, which there always are. It's a monthly process with all these different vendors. As Dalen referred to, Jack's, Shields, REI, and Quick Corner. I think the biggest takeaways when we are starting to evaluate our business processes is not only trying to get our customers more to the online focus of purchasing permits online for their ease and for our automation. But it also helps us track information. When we put those permit sales in the hand of different vendors, that sale then becomes an REI sale or a Shield sale, and we lose that point of contact with our customer. Those folks at the counters can't talk about, trail closures or camping offerings or any question that a DNR employee would know, either at a gatehouse or an office. Just to highlight some numbers that we're talking about, it's only 13% of our sales that are done through these outside vendors since 2020 through now. And it's kind of lumped together many years because, as we all know, COVID did some really strange things with our revenues, especially with permit revenues. And we are talking large dollars here. And so in the commissions that we have let these outside vendors keep, that was $100,000 of our revenue since 2020. And like I said, since we are going to this more online model, it doesn't really serve our customers by not providing them anything more than a point of sale. We're making our offerings online more robust and transitioning a system within the next few years to really make it all online. Let's say it mostly online, but primarily all online. It just helps us kind of make those changes slowly but surely, but we identified it now as being something that could happen now with little to no impact to our customers, but really enhance staff time and how we use that time.
So I had Commissioner Stevens, you have a question?
No, I think we should do what you say and not do that. I don't want to waste your time, and that's not, yeah, so I don't think I have any questions. I mean, I pretty much understand it, but it sounds like it is really time-consuming. And, yeah, I would take your suggestion and say not do it.
Commissioner Cavallis, did you have a comment or question? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, Corey, Dalen. A question that I have is, when you were evaluating this change based on how much of these sales occur through these third parties and so forth, did you take into consideration any potential impacts in terms of access? So everyone wants to go to online, but there might be certain demographics like older adults perhaps that aren't totally savvy with QR codes and all the rest. So I'm wondering if you took that, how much you took that into consideration as far as would it diminish, certain groups, their ability to, purchase a permit the old-fashioned way, or since it's dispersed, does that help folks who may typically have issues with accessing to the open space and the recreation areas? That is my question.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a great question. And yes, we did. So first of all, not all permit types are offered at these outside vendor locations. So our persons with disabilities are not offered at these outside vendor locations, low income. However, senior citizens are, the senior vehicles and the senior combos are. And so we did look into that. And be perfectly honest, we were going to make another change. We were going to sell annual permits at gatehouses. And then we evaluated this and decided, wait a minute, that really does narrow all of our customers only to offices that are only, open at certain times. So we're like, no, let's not do that and impact all of our customers at the same time. Let's go ahead and do it like by slower steps. And Corey can talk about how we're marketing out to transmit that information. But just so I know, just personally, when we got on this new T2 system to purchase online permits, we do get calls from senior citizens that maybe need some online help. And so we are kind of used to some of those questions. We've even had people walk into the office and say, can you please help me set up an account? So we are used to trying to help everyone get access to the online system.
Yeah, and we do still sell permits the old-fashioned way at our front desks where we can help and really walk folks through the process as well. So we're trying to be very sensitive to that.
Yes.
So when someone goes to the Horsetooth Information Center, they can purchase different kinds of permits.
All 12.
There are 12.
That'll be a topic for a different day.
That's why we're making changes
I
little by
appreciate that you're I assume that you were obviously taking that into consideration. I think it's important. We don't want to inadvertently diminish, issues related to access, folks accessing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So that was my question that I was going to ask because I have, my mother does not have internet, refuses because she got scammed. I have to still teach her about every other day how to text. And I know they wanted to go to Rocky National Park and trying to figure out how to buy, a timed entry. She can't do that, right? So trying to share how she can use the park otherwise, because there's no way to get a timed entry other than being online. And so, older adults also have a hard time be patient with the system when it's online and, the screens are smaller and little fingers, and even I have trouble getting my text, my letters and stuff and right, and we have to double check. And so wondering, I had that question about how are we making sure older adults and folks that might have different abilities to get through. It sounds like they're still being sold in person, so other people might have this expectation that it's going to be these other places. Have we thought about advertising at older senior centers or older adults or through Office on Aging just to let know that it won't be ready in the going to Jack's or something? Just like go get my worms with my dad at the store, get the fishing license, and then we head out the door, right? And so that's going to be a change of a generation. So I'm just curious if there's maybe some marketing or messaging out to some of these areas. And I certainly think this would be great to share with the Office on Aging Advisory Council, these changes, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to jump in now.
Yeah, great.
Corey Johnston, Communications Supervisor for the Department of Natural Resources. Happy to be here today. And with this example, just as Sarah talked about, it's going to be a multi-phased marketing campaign as well. As we work through the additional technologies and the additional ways that we can help our customers customize how they're going to purchase a permit, that marketing campaign will kind of follow suit to that. So the first phase of this is really the retail, retiring those vendors. And the communications plan that goes along with that is connecting them with a notification letter and meetings on site as requested to communicate the why behind why we're moving away from these these customer purchases in the store. I think it's important to note, in my 4 years here at the county, we have never marketed that we even have these available in these shops. So customers are finding them, I think, in a position of convenience because they can buy their CPW permits there. So I'll just buy my county permit there as well. So luckily, that piece, it's a very small portion of who we sell to overall. In addition, beyond that, so the timing aspect of this, we were hoping to start January 1st of 2024 to retire the stores. So we have this quarter of time of this year to really both communicate with the store owners and also provide them with the tools that they're going to need to sell permits ongoing from January on. The thought was that we would provide them with some sort of toolkit sheet where they can have a QR code. If a customer requests to purchase a permit, they would have that tool there so somebody could scan and be able to still fulfill that sales purchase, but not necessarily within the realm of the REI per se. So that's kind of the first phase of this marketing kind of connection campaign. And then moving on beyond that, 2024, 2025, as our team continues to move through the different ways in which we will kind of retire back and kind of move more into the online sphere, that kind of general marketing awareness of where you can get a permit, and Commissioner Shattuck McNally, that was a great idea around connecting to organizations that are tied to these different demographics that need help. At that point is when that general marketing campaign will go out. But it's this tricky timing aspect. You don't want to get too far in front before the technology is ready to move there, because ultimately this year, it's status quo. We're going to be selling at REI through the end of the year. So, and then following that, as we pull out of gatehouses, as we pull out of, the retail stores and move more paperless, move more online, that's really when the full-on marketing piece occurs. But my hope within the plan of what we're developing is those messaging points will be happening as soon as this quarter.
And just a kind of a quick update on the timeline we hope to be on is we're anticipating putting an RFP out this fall in November to look for vendors who can help modernize our system with whatever they can bring forward with license plate readers, permit sales, however we do that. Work on it through 24 with the 2025 implementation. And so that's the timeline we're on. It is a capital project for us we've budgeted for. So we're not there yet, which is why we're making these very small steps on the front end because we're not quite sure what our new system will look like other than it will be new. But we will have if all goes well, a 2025 start. And we can provide updates along the way as well.
Great. Any other questions? Well, I just wanted to share a quick little story with you. Yesterday morning, I had my hat on trying to be incognito to go into the donut shop because I needed a donut because it was kind of a wild and woolly weekend and with lots of meetings and interactions. So, and I was walking out, a 5-year-old girl recognized me and draw my attention. She said, "We're going to the mountains. We're going to the mountains." I said, "Where are we going? Where are we going?" "Hermit Park. It's my favorite place on earth." And they sent me pictures. And so her and her family went up hiking. And even though her mom had broken foot in a boot, they got to move around a little bit and do some things. And then she went a little further. But I just wanted to it's kind of a cute little story. So I just thought you'd like to know this, a nice little family had a great experience this weekend in one of our county parks. So, yeah. I realized I need big glasses and maybe a larger hat. So.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on along to Rebecca Everett, our Community Development Director update.
Good afternoon, Rebecca.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I don't have much for you today. Just wanted to mention that we have a land use hearing at 3 p.m. this afternoon. There is one item on the consent agenda, and that's the extent of the agenda today. We don't have any indication at this point that we will have any kind of turnout or interest in hearing a full discussion on that item. And that's really my only update for today.
Thank you. Colleagues, have any questions for Rebecca for this afternoon? Commissioner Gonzalez?
Just that I'm hoping we can break the record for maybe, I think 4 minutes might be the record, so let's strive for that.
Is that a challenge, Commissioner, to me?
Well, I think it's a group effort to all of us.
Okay, well, we will work as a group. I think that's a great idea, collaboration. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca.
So, good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, Leslie, you're up.
So I do have a few quick updates for you. The first couple relate to the ranch and some of the goings-on at the ranch. I think you probably heard that Keller Taylor took a position in Oklahoma, and so we've been moving to replace that general manager position at OVG. And Connor did some interviews last week, and he's moving toward an offer, and we should hopefully have an announcement sometime soon in the near future. In the meantime, things are going well in the transition period. And then the request for proposals, the development of the event arena and youth sports training center is out on the street. There's been a lot of interest around that from our potential private partners. That does close on November 30th, and then there's a fairly extensive review and process after that. But just in case you hadn't heard about it, and if anybody's interested, it can be found on BidNet. And but as I said, they're excited that they're getting a lot of interest and questions about it in this phase while it's out on the street. And then, of course, hockey season starts here at the end of the month. I think a lot of folks are excited about that. So lots going on out there, as always. Additionally, in terms of water, the water education series, there's a session next week on the 18th. So that would be part 3 of a 4-part session. That one is being held down in Loveland from 6 to 8 p.m. And I'm afraid to say I don't know the specific topic around that this time. I should have looked at the agenda. Maybe one of you knows, but for those who've been following that series, gear up for that next one that's happening next week. And then along those lines, our own water master plan activity is gearing up, and we have committee meetings this week and next, but probably for most of the public who may be interested, the first public event will be held on November 6th down in Loveland. And then we'll have some further discussion at the Planning Commission, County Commissioners work session the week after that in November. And just really gearing up around the early stages of public engagement for that plan, as well as gathering data and information and starting to develop some goals for the planning effort. And then that whole planning process will extend through the end of next year. So we're really just kind of, even though it seems like it's taken a while to get started, we're still in that stage of launching the project as we move ahead. Any questions comments about those activities?
Commissioner?
Just a quick positive feedback comment.
Yeah.
From the previous Water Education Series program that focused on agricultural uses of waters, water sharing, at least one person reached out to me and said it was really an excellent program. Is the video available, the recording of that event, or did we?
I believe so. I'm looking at Lori. She may know.
They're supposed to be, I don't know if they're on yet or not, but they will.
I think Cassidy above us just said something. Did you say something, Cassidy?
Yes, it's live on the YouTube channel, Larimer County.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Perfect.
three series. Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. I heard him say something. I said, I think he just affirmed that.
Right.
So, cool.
So
Yeah.
it's on the YouTube channel?
Yes, yes.
Because I'd like to listen to that second one. I wasn't able to attend.
Yeah,
I would agree. It was very well done.
Yeah.
So,
great.
okay.
And then.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay.
Okay. Just a few other, it's hard to believe it's October, but a few other activities coming up this month. Of course, we have our Solid Waste Planning Advisory Council meeting next week on the 19th. And then we have, at the end of the month, a work session around subdivision roads and financing. It feels like we've had a lot of questions lately about that topic and have worked very hard with our engineering and road and bridge department to address a lot of questions. But I think that session with the attorneys and with our finance department should be very informative in terms of some of the options around many of those questions that we've received lately. And that is all I had for you for
What date is
today.
that?
That is October 30th at the end of the month.
Well, I apologize. I will be missing that, so I'll have to watch it later. So
Yeah. We can share information too.
that would be great. Oh, actually, is that in the morning? I can probably, I'll be Zooming in. So
Okay.
I'm going to watch my child graduate from college, so
As you should.
important. So thank you. Okay.
All right.
Is that all the?
And that is all for today. So we
Great.
will give you back some time.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, any other items, comments, questions? Okay. Well, then at 2:09, we are adjourned. Thank you for joining us today.